Today I'm installing a 36-volt power supply for my Starlink Mini when I use a pole mount attached to my ladder. So let me get on with showing you how I did this.
Okay, I have this little connector for a 55.5 millimeter by 2.1 millimeter jack plug. And I'm just using this one to give me something to hold on to while I'm soldering wires onto these ends. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my solder seal connectors, and I'm going to put the wire here and slide the solder seal over it, and then I'm going to heat this and solder the wire to the terminal. So let's see how this works. I've never tried it before, so we'll see how it works. Now I'm not worrying about what I'm doing to the casing because I'm going to put another cover over this, but I just want to melt the solder. Okay, now you can see the solder came out right there, so it did melt. So we'll let that cool and see if that makes a solid connection. Yeah, you can see the solder right there. And so that did make a good connection. I mean, it melted, which is what I wanted it to do. So now I want to see. I'm just licking my fingers to cool this down. Let's see how it's going to work. And that's good. That's a nice solid connection. Okay, so now I want to do the same thing on this negative. I'm going to bend it out a little bit. This is the negative terminal. So I'll come back when I'm going to clean the soot off of this, and I'll come back. Okay, so now I've got the heat shrink. I put heat shrink on this black wire, and I've got my heat shrink connector. So now I'm going to put the wire to this negative terminal and slide the connector down just past the casing like that. And then I'm going to do the same thing. Melt this. Okay, and you can see the solder is dripping out of the end. So I'm just wetting my finger. And I'm going to cool that connection down. Make sure it's tight. Pulling on it, yep, see? Okay, so both of these are nice tight solder connections. Okay, so now I can go ahead and use my use my lighter, and I'll just go ahead and finish shrinking the heat shrink tubing down so it fits on nice and smooth on the wire. And then I'm going to slide my heat shrink tubes down over so I keep my connections separated from each other. There, okay. So now I've made a nice plug here that I can use with my Starlink Mini. And another reason I put this in, this spare barrel connector that I had, is I wanted to make sure when I was heating up these terminals that the heat didn't cause any deformation of the interior. So I put this in so it would keep everything from moving, and if it heated up, it would stay within the confines of the connection. And then when it's cold, I just pulled it out, and you can see it's still nice and tight, which is exactly what I want for my Starlink Mini plug. So now I'm going to hook this. This is 16. I use 16 gauge wire, which is probably heavier than I need. I probably could have used 18, but I just wanted to use nice heavy wire with this. So now what I'm going to do is, and these little plugs, they come with, a nut so I can nut and washer so I can secure it to a mounting, and then also a little plug that you put around this, and it keeps dust and dirt out when you're not using it. So, and I'll put links to everything in the description, like I always do. Just click on the title while you're watching this, and it'll take you to the description with all the links. So now what I want to do is hook up my 36 volt, my 12 volt to 36 volt booster, so it will boost the 12 volt power of my coach to up to 36 volts when I plug in the so it'll be 36 volts up to 36 volts here. So when I plug in the Mini, it will get up to 36 volts. And based on my experience, my Starlink Mini does better if it's, getting well above 13 volts. So, it's doing a lot better if it's getting like, say, 15 to 20. So I want to keep that voltage high for it because it just performs a lot better, especially if there's obstructions. So I'm going to get on with that. Okay, so here is the 12 volt to 36 volt converter. So what this is going to do, it's going to boost the voltage. And so I'm adding, one of the things I want to add, this is the input, plus and minus. So one of the things I want to add to the input is a fuse. And I'm using a 7.5 amp fuse on the input because the output is 5 amps. So it could actually draw a little bit more. So that's fine. And this is 14 gauge wire. And these are, I think this is 14. Yeah, this is 14 gauge wire on the input. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this fuse holder, I'm going to use my heat shrink crimp connector and put a fuse holder on here. And I'll get my heat gun and shrink that. Okay, so now I've got my input side fused, so I'll be connecting it to then I'll be connecting my switch on the output, which is a yellow wire. Here's the out. These yellow and black go with this red and black wire for the output. So then I'll have 36 volts at this for my Starlink. Okay, so I've added my fuse and my ring connector to put on my power supply, and then I extended the negative so I can ground it. I'll be grounding it to the compartment I'm going to put this in. And then I've got this connector done. I'll put some more heat shrink over this once I get it hooked up, and I've got plenty of wire so I can figure out where I'm going to install this. And I'm going to be putting all of this in my end lower compartment, so then it'll be very easy for me to just open my compartment, plug in my Starlink, and I've already got the wire, the cable purchased for that. So it'll be very easy for me just to open my end compartment, plug in this cable, and extend my Starlink Mini on my pole mount and attach it to my ladder. Okay, I'm in my very end compartment on the passenger side, and I had already installed this circuit breaker. Basically, when I took out my generator, I used one of the old cables to run a power supply here and put it on a 40 amp circuit breaker, so I could have a place to always connect my Vi-Air 400 PRV air compressor. So I basically just flip this circuit breaker to the on position, then I clip my Vi-Air there and clip it to the compartment bolt or this whatever for the ground, and it runs great. And then I just turn it off when I'm not using it. So I want to use this to add a Starlink Mini power supply that I can connect when I want to use my Starlink Mini off my pole connected to my ladder. So I got a 36 volt, a 12 volt to 36 volt converter. I've already added a, this is 12 to 36 volt output. I've already added I put a 7.5 amp breaker on this because it, could draw a little bit more amps than what it outputs. And then I've extended the ground wire because I didn't know where I might attach that. And then here's my input wires, which is what I will connect to a little plug that I've already made. And I want to see where to mount it, but basically I'm thinking about just mounting it somewhere like this, so then I can plug my Starlink Mini in, or maybe I'll do it upside down. I don't know. I'm going to play with it and see what the best installation is, but that's what I'm going to be this is where I'm going to be hooking up today. Okay, I've mounted my little plug on this piece of plastic that I'm going to use VHB tape to tape it to the metal part of the inside of my compartment. And now I'm going to cover this with heat shrink so I have a nice sealed connection area. Okay, so this is ready to go. Now all I need to do is attach these wires to the black and yellow wires for the output, and I will be able to mount it. Okay, I mounted my 36 volt booster up on the top of my compartment ceiling. Just used a couple of screws, put it in, and I ran the power supply line behind underneath this connection for the main battery supply, and I'm going to be hooking it down here on this terminal. So then when I turn the circuit breaker on, I'll have power going to the fuse. My little fuse holder is right up there on top, so it's easy to get to. Okay, so now the last thing I need to do is use this double-sided tape to put my cord up, which I'm probably going to put it right here, this corner. That'll be easy for me to plug into. So let me get on with that. Okay, there I have hooked up my ground. The whole compartment, metal compartment's grounded to the frame, so for something small like this, I can just drill it right into the metal compartment and it'll ground it. Okay, so my plug is my new 5.5 millimeter by 2.1 plug is ready to be used. Got this nice little waterproof seal. That's good. I've zip tied my lines there. Let's see, I've got this. I think this is my ground. Oh yeah, I'll zip tie this, keep that in place. But everything is hooked up now and ready for me to test. So I will get on with that and plug in my new, as I said, I have this new 16.5 foot cord. I'm going to use this, it's 18 gauge. I'm going to use this with my Starlink Mini. Then going to use to plug in here to my new power outlet. And then I'm just going to run it outside the compartment with this rubber seal. You can just push the wire in against it and close your compartment. So then I'll let it run down and go up my ladder. So this is ready for me to test. Okay, so now I've got my 16 feet of cord. I've plugged it into my Mini, so I'm going to mount my Mini on the ladder, and then I can plug this in and test my new 36 volt booster and see how it runs the Mini. Okay, so I just put one of these plugs that I have in the other end of my Starlink, in the 16, at the end where I plug it into the Starlink, and I want to test the voltage on this. And I'm getting 36 volts. So that's great. Okay, so I have my Mini plugged up, and I'm just going to use it in my compartment. I have the outside and my Mini, I have it up on my ladder mount. And it's getting connected, so I'm just going to let that run a few minutes. Just plan on having it stick down and close my compartment for a concealed, well, for it, for a more concealed look. And this is just fine coming out of the gap that I have in the compartment. So that looks, that looks nice. And on the back, it's obviously a temporary installation. So, and this is exactly what I wanted. So I have this as an option for when my skylight, when I may be too obstructed in my skylight area and I need to use my ladder mount. This 12 volt to 36 volt booster is going to give the Starlink all the power it needs. Now, actually, if I didn't know how this was going to turn out, but now that I've measured the voltages, a 12 volt to 24 volt booster would have worked just fine, because as you can see, when I tested the voltage, I don't have any voltage drop from my little outlet that I installed, my little jack plug. I didn't get any voltage drop over the course of this 16-foot, 18-gauge cable that has two male ends on it. That fits in the 5.5 millimeter by 2.1 millimeter or 5521 connector sizes. So anyway, so if I were to do this over again, I would have just ordered a 12 volt booster, because a 12 volt to 24, because the Starlink Mini really works very well with any voltage over 20 volts, but it doesn't matter one way or the other, because the Mini can use basically from 12 to 40 volts. So this is just fine for this application, but I'm just letting people know, and I'll put in the links, both a 24 volt and a 36 volt, so you can choose, but honestly, a 24 volt booster would have been just fine. Okay, I've given my Starlink about a half an hour, it's been about a half an hour to, get connected and stabilize. And I do have obstructions. My obstruction map is just starting to build, but you can see there's red, which is, it's going to have some good obstructions. Because basically I'm right by a tall stand of trees. I'm aligned, and my statistics, I'm at 72% ping rate, which basically means the ability for the Starlink router to connect to the satellite. I'm drawing 19 watts of power. Very good. I've had some outages. Looks like I've got at least one outage per minute. That's due to the obstructions. Now, whether the outages, if they're short outages or even 15 seconds or something, they really don't bother performance. If you're just, surfing the net or streaming, like particularly streaming Amazon. Amazon Prime is much less bothered by obstructions and outages than my YouTube TV. And then as far as my connection, I've got good strength, pretty good strength, 54. Yeah, it's iffy, but I mean it'll still do good for what I use it for, which is really just surfing the net, reading emails, and then we want to stream things at night on the TV. And as I said, Amazon Prime usually can always do Amazon Prime, so it just depends on, what the signal strength is. You can see right now I've got an outage because I'm I'm going through obstruction issues. So anyway, it is what it is. The main thing is that my 36 volt power supply is working, and it's powering my Mini. So I'm gonna call this done.